Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this live discussion on the role of data analytics in startups, accelerating success and breaking barriers. I hope you're all doing well. I'm Priyanka, your host for this virtual event, and I work as an event marketing specialist at Hevo. Before we begin, I would like to give you a quick overview of our offerings. Hevo is a no-code data pipeline platform that helps you integrate your data that's spread across multiple sources into a data warehouse and provides you analytics-ready data in minutes. The platform provides 100 plus pre-built integrations with different types of data sources, including databases, data warehouses, SaaS applications, SDK, streaming, data services, among many more. If you aren't using any data warehouse, don't worry. Hevo provides a fully managed data warehouse offering that helps you set up your warehouse without any hassle. Once all your data is in the data warehouse, you can easily plug that into any BI tool or business application of your choice for detailed analysis, reporting, and decision making. Hevo is a feature-rich platform that provides multiple capabilities like ETL, ELT, reverse ETL, data modeling, data pipelining, auto schema mapping, and many more. Thousands of data professionals from over 35 countries trust Hevo to solve their complex data problems. So if you're struggling with data silos and want to unify your data, then check out our website, www.hevodata.com. You can sign up for our 14-day free trial or even schedule a demo with our product expert. Okay, so let's begin the panel discussion. I would like to begin by introducing you to our moderator for today's session, Pradeep Sharma. Pradeep is Vice President of Engineering at White Hat Junior or Byju's Future School and a technology leader with more than 19 years of experience across corporate and startups like LendingCard, Naptol, and more. He has built the data warehouse for LendingCard's credit underwriting algorithms and repayment analytics. He works to make the customer and tech communications at White Hat Junior more adaptive and intelligent for millions of notifications every day. Earlier, he built Naptol data mining framework for comparison shopping platform. Here's a little bit about our esteemed panelists. Achal Anand heads the analytics function at PhonePe. He joined PhonePe in 2017 and has been responsible for building the analytics function. Achal's charter at PhonePe involves tracking business performance and sharing insights from data to drive tactical and strategic business decisions. Thank you for joining us, Achal. Naresh Mehta is Vice President Data and Strategy, heading all things data at Cars24, from BI and strategy to core DS modules to the platform team responsible for data warehousing and ML pipelines. Naresh has been in the data leadership position across the Indian startup ecosystem for more than 6 years now. Prior to Cars24, he led the data science function at Zomato. Thank you for joining the panel, Naresh.
Thank you for having me.
Naveen Setia is a product and data leader with a proven track record of more than 16 years across corporate and startups like Goldman Sachs, Make My Trip, GoIbigo, and many more. He led the contract tracing algorithm for the innovative Arogya Setu, the fastest app to reach 50 million and increase national testing efficiency by more than 3 times. His expertise lies in P&L growth, solving business problems, and driving strategic decisions by leveraging data science, analytics, and technology. He's currently leading product and data platform for hotels LOB for Make My Trip and GoIbigo. Thank you for joining us, Naveen.
Thank you for having me here.
Hemanshu is the principal data and insights for Zitwork. He set up the analytics organizations and systems at Zitwork from the ground up. Prior to Zitwork, Hemanshu looked into marketing analytics at Flipkart and had also led the reporting and analysis for India's largest scale event, the Big Billion Days. He has experience working with data across organizations of various sizes and industries and is someone who would be able to give insight about challenges that organizations face while setting up analytics systems. Welcome, Hemanshu.
Thank you for having me.
Katrina Kiran Kumar is the Vice President of Data Platform Engineering at Misho. Kiran is currently building a talented team committed to building a world-class data ML platform that improves customer satisfaction and propels Misho ahead as a data-driven company. Kiran has worked for companies like TCS, Yahoo, Akamai, Media Melon, and Decision Resources Group, building distributed data processing and storage systems at petabyte scale. Welcome, Katredi.
Hey, thanks for having me here. Yeah.
I now request the moderator, Pradeep Sharma, to take over. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I sincerely apologize because the video is not working.
No problem. I believe we'll be having a good discussion even without the video. Thank you for having me here. I'm Pradeep. I'll be trying to host and come up with some questions that all of our attendees, everybody would want to listen from such a esteemed panel. Let me start with one question that everybody has. For a new early age startup, it's essentially very important to understand what kind of data analytics function they would require. What are the different building blocks of such a data analytics function or a team inside an early stage startup? Let me start this by asking to Achal, who can give us insight into what would the data analytics function for a company like PhonePe be?
Yeah, thanks, Pradeep. I'll get straight to the question. And I think for an early stage startup, when you're setting things up from scratch, the primary thing is about how the engineering systems are capturing data. I think today, most of the organizations are well versed with the fact that it all starts with engineering systems capturing the data. Once these engineering systems are capturing the data, then you start with setting up a data engineering function, which is then setting up a data warehouse to move all this data from the engineering or the production systems or your live systems and services to move them into a data warehouse. So you set up a basic data warehouse to start with, and you then set up ingestion jobs. These are ingestion pipelines which copy the data. In very simple terms, it is a copy paste of data, but obviously it's much more complex than that, where data in compressed formats stored in engineering services and systems, probably in JSON format or other optimal formats, are then copied into tabular format, or sometimes continue to be kept in JSON format or whatever compressed format it is in the data warehouse. The world of analytics, data science, business reporting, everything starts from the data warehouse. So to me, this is the very basic and primary where it starts from. I want to give an example from PhonePe. I was one of the first 20-30 employees of PhonePe when we barely had a few users, to today where we have 300 million users. And the first two people to hire were, I was the first analyst in PhonePe, and the first person I hired was a data engineer. So that is where it all began. PhonePe was an organization that always believed in being very data savvy and data driven. We already had a real-time platform that was used to monitor data directly from the engineering systems, but that platform couldn't be used to analyze data very deeply. So this is how it all started.
Absolutely. I think early age startup has to focus on the questions that data can answer for them. And I would also like to understand for a company like Cast24, wherein you have maybe big ticket kind of transactions, how would you look at data analytics function at early age of Cart24, Naresh?
Yeah, sure, Pradeep. So I think so before I get into Cars24, see, fundamentally, when I view at any data ecosystem, I kind of try to put a lens of 3 stages of maturity, right? So there are 3 levels of maturity at which your data ecosystem can be. The first one is most fundamental, which is kind of sort of answering the question that what's going on, right? That's reporting, dashboarding, like what are the metrics looking like? And from there, you kind of mature into the next stage where you sort of try to understand the levers or the drivers of what's going on, right? So that's basically why. So you know what's going on, but then you try to answer why it's happening that way. And finally, the most matured state is when sort of you reach a stage where the ML ecosystems can literally take over, right? So you kind of go for a system-driven automated decision making. So, however, having said that, regardless of maturity of the ecosystem, the fundamental building blocks remain the same, which Achal has very nicely captured, right? So definitely starts with data collection, followed by storage slash warehousing of data, followed by the reporting platforms. Then you move on to deep dive capabilities, and finally the ML automation, right? So that's the final frontier where systems kind of start making decision for you. A couple of pointers on collection, especially data collection, right? So even before we can go about hiring first data scientist, I think collection of data comes first, right? So it also shows the intent and vision of founders and leaders, right? So from the first day itself, if we can log whatever possibly can be logged, especially in this new era where storage is cheap, so that's the prerequisite. So you have to start collecting data upfront before you even start building your analytics or DS ecosystem. When it comes to pipelines and warehousing, thanks to a lot of good, strong third-party solutions, especially Hero as well, right? So now we are in a stage where data leaders and business leaders don't have to rely too much on edge bandwidth. So a lot of things can be done thanks to third-party managed solution where you try to bring data from disparate sources into one single warehouse, and then analytics and machine learning kind of rides on top of that. But yeah, so I mean, adding to Achal's point, fundamental blocks are still the same. They are definitely the same, right? So you start with collection of data, you move to storage and warehousing, then you have a robust sort of reporting platform, followed by DS and ML capabilities.
Absolutely. I believe that we were doing data engineering from quite a long time. Recently, we have heard some, I would say, more trendy kind of names for the entire data science. And important thing that you brought is that in startups, essentially, you're looking to source the data and load the data to do the transformations later. Maybe ELT makes much more sense than ETL that in early days used to for bigger companies. I think that is one of the difference between startup and SMEs using the data analytics. But I would like to ask Hemanshu, what do you think are the other differences between a small, medium enterprise and startups for data analytics?
Um, uh, so like as far as like SMEs are concerned, like we at Zetwork have been like, I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of SMEs very closely. And one thing that I have experienced while working with SMEs is like SMEs in India are capturing like literally very less or literally no data at times, right? Even if they're capturing, the SMEs are capturing only financial data to be very fair. They are using systems like Tally or any other ERPs to manage their finances. But as far as the other dimensions of data are concerned, there are literally an analytics team would face a lot of difficulties to work and like generate those insights in an SME kind of an environment. There are a bunch of startups and organizations like which are helping SMEs capture a lot of data today. Like there are like organizations like Khata Book is there, My Bill Book, Salary Box, which are helping SMEs to capture data around their customers, their payrolls, their payment terms and stuff like that. But yeah, SMEs today definitely have a long way towards building those systems as compared to startups, right? The good part of startups is like they're mostly tech first. There's an engineering team who's experimenting with products. They're innovating products, and they're doing consistent experimentations so that they could innovate and like lead to a growth path, which is not present in SMEs today.
Right. So I think one important thing everybody seems to understand is that with the e-commerce boom that India has seen, everybody started focusing on the data from multiple different dimensions. And for an e-commerce portal, I would say that it's not even a startup. As soon as you start, you have tons of data to look at. And what are the different use cases and the importance of data for an e-commerce business? I would like to ask this to Kiran.
Hey, hello everyone. See, for e-commerce company like Misho, right? So where we have billions of data points we collect every day and analyze every day. So a company like us, uh, we are mostly data obsessed culture where we try to base all our decisions on data, be it small or big. Right? To give an example, Misho used to be a social commerce platform till April this year, and we got into BTC shift and started supporting direct consumers on our platform, right? So the whole decisioning and whole uh, switch from B2B to B2C was completely driven by our data. So uh, how we do it and what kind of use cases we solve with this data, there are two different aspects we look at to solve using whatever data we collect. One is how do we personalize experience on the app for all our end users or entrepreneurs who are reselling products on our platform. That is one aspect where a lot of investment has gone into it, where we have solved a lot of use cases where looking at the data and behavioral features of end users and giving them the right set of recommendations, right set of products, and showing them the similar products and all that in real time, and making their purchase decision much easier. That is one aspect. Another aspect, for example, Misho is little different when it comes to e-commerce because uh, our customer base comes from tier 2, tier 3 cities and villages, where the tech savviness is, I think, their tech is like not on par with urban population, right? So where we have to handhold a lot, or we have to personalize a lot to get some order placed on the app. So that's where we invest a lot in a lot of data science models, which gives the right set of products to them and understand their intent and provide them be it a product at a right price point or be it product which is um, of their taste or whatever, right? So there we the personalization is where we have invested a lot in terms of use cases. And another one is most of our sellers are first-time sellers online because the Misho came into existence to democratize internet commerce to everyone. And these are not the big brands which are selling on Misho. They are very small shops who used to sell within 20 kilometers radius in the town or village, whatever, right? So we are enabling them, those MSMEs, on the platform. So here, another aspect where we use data is to help them because big brands already have, they can throw millions of dollars to do analysis on what products are selling and understanding user behavior and all that. But these MSMEs, they don't have access to that. But Miso tries to provide that to all partners in our ecosystem where we try to tell them what is the inventory which is moving fast and what other catalogs they can sell along with their current products which they are selling, what additional related products they can source and at what price point they can sell to maximize their profit, whatever, right? So we try to basically help our uh, suppliers also with a lot of analytics and dashboards and feed so that they can make some informed decisions in terms of selling online. And we use the data to even train some of these resellers who are selling on our platform to how to catalog their inventory. And even we invested a lot in uh, cataloging the inventory automatically and helping them to quickly do it because of even they are not tech savvy when it comes to uh, posting inventory online, right? So because since we are in that niche space where we are enabling a lot of first-time buyers and sellers online, data becomes very critical for us to make any decision in terms of optimizing experience, be it resellers, sellers, or end users. That's where I think data becomes first-class citizen in a company like us, where we run these models at petabyte scale. Even within the company, we follow similar democratic nature where we democratize data to all users. If you look at Misho, everyone in Misho uses data in some way or other. So we made the analytics platform as a self-serve platform where anyone can come and build a dashboard, build a report, or build a model and test their hypothesis, right? So that's where I think we were able to solve a lot of use cases end to end and optimize the price point, because our end users are more focused on price over convenience, where because they're okay to wait a couple of days to get something at a better price point than a local shop near to them, right? So that's where they compare us against a wholesaler near to them rather than other e-commerce platforms. So using data, optimizing that end-to-end supply chain, optimizing sourcing till delivery to the end user is where a lot of our use cases come. For example, helping our sellers to who are resellers to source from nearest wholesaler or nearest supplier who is available to them, right? So having that, if you look at it as a in the bigger graph, having that localized graphs which can communicate more optimally and then sell the product at optimal price point is where there are a lot of use cases where we solve that.
Yeah, I think you bring a very important point. One of those is that it is not only the customer and the company itself using the data for customers, but for vendors also. So I'll go back to Himanshu and ask, because you are working with a lot of manufacturing organizations. How has COVID impacted your business, and what kind of change have you seen in terms of analytics processes or in your data? I believe that you would also be giving some kind of reporting or analytics back to your customers.
So, well, as far as like COVID like time period was concerned, we are in the manufacturing space, and like at that point in time, like our business became literally halted. But like problem phenomenons like labor migrations and all those, like yeah, that kind of literally affected us directly. But as far as like the ecosystem is concerned, and for a function like mine, analytics, a function like ours to be precise, it was a big boon, because this released a lot of bandwidth across the board, from across levels, for people to look elsewhere outside of their day-to-day operations, right? And in my organization particularly, I use this as an opportunity to drive adoptions. People in manufacturing industry, as you know, it's a very, very traditional industry. People are not data first, and it was and getting them to adopt data on a very regular basis was becoming a challenge. So what during this particular time period, like COVID, we reached out to like our complete ecosystem, be it our suppliers or SMEs, be it our internal operations manager, leadership, be it our customers. And we reached out to them and tried and understood what kind of like data would basically help them to be more efficient at their business on a day-to-day basis. We created reports for them, created a lot of iterations in those 2-3 months of period. Me and my team like worked with SMEs to understand their requirements, and like created reports for them, for internal teams to make their operations more efficient. And yeah, so in what happened in this whole period was like, yeah, as far as our internal products are concerned, for our customers and for suppliers, we built portals where they could literally look at each and every manufacturing progress in each and every manufacturing component. Our suppliers who are more concerned about the finances, we created many reports around their balance sheets and their workings with our organization. And yeah, so COVID was definitely a boon for a function like analytics, as it gave people a lot more bandwidth. Internally also, we got more and more richer requests from our internal teams to build product features, right? As and when people start looking into data, and like their ground intelligence comes into picture, and they are now more receptive about what they see into the products, which they earlier used to work upon because of the leadership pressure, or maybe just use those products as a data entry tools, right? They were now more interested into its development, and they became a part of like the whole product request process, and the whole engineering development process became more and more engaged with the business. And like this all like after even, and this all led to more engagement even after the COVID kind of things resumed, right? Like after the business resumed, people became more engaged with the product teams. They were more engaged and more receptive towards data. They wanted more and more because they could see the value in data. But yeah, this was a proper B2B industry phenomena. Like COVID at times, like in B2C industry, might have led to different kinds of problems around data production because people became more online and stuff, which was not the case in our B2B industry.
Right. It's a different kind of use case. Now, I think we all agree that over the last couple of years with pandemic as well as demonetization, a lot of digital payments and have come up, which have replaced the cash payments. Now that probably marks a complete pivot around the data analytics function for Indian startups. So let me go back and ask Achal. You might be having close understanding of how the data analytics functions have matured in Indian startups over the last few years, and going forward, maybe 4 to 5 years. What do you see?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the maturity of a startup, I would say, it should be defined by how well the organization uses data for decision making across the organization by each and every employee across all levels. I think most of us in this panel and everyone listening would agree in all the organizations we work with, the leadership is mostly very data savvy. They do encourage all the different stakeholders across the organization to use data as much as possible for every decision making. I think most of us today, with the leveraging technology and with how much the world has changed with digitalization and everything, I think we are all working in very data driven companies. But I think that is not the end to it. I think the next step for most of us, and I think a lot of panelists would agree with me, is building the data savvy organization. And I think what the difference between data driven and data savvy is, a lot of everyone here and all of our teams are all very data savvy. What I mean by data savvy is, do you know the right questions to ask? Do you know what data practices or what analytics or data science should be used to answer that particular question? Today, I still see that most of the business users in an organization resort to very simple analytics, that is simple data cuts, trend analysis and stuff. It's not very mature. So I think today, my view at least would be that analytics teams and in various companies are mature enough to leverage data across the org, but I don't think most of the organizations are mature enough to make all the employees data savvy, that they're really asking the right question and know what is the right maybe the right concepts to apply, especially when the questions start getting complex. They do look for the analytics, sure, but if the dependency is too much on the analytics and data science teams, then you end up building a very people heavy function. So if you want to keep a lean data analytics and data science team, I think the answer would be to create a culture where the organization is very data savvy. So every business employee, everyone in the organization is data savvy.
Right. Yeah. Let me also ask Naresh. You have worked with Zomato as well. So what I think is coming up is now data is much more of a replacement or representative of the customer. Earlier, you would directly be able to get every feedback and every data point from customer directly. Now you have to do a lot of inferences, right? So how do you see that the change in data analytics in Zomato in your current company, Cars24?
Yeah, so I think that's a good question. So, see, fundamentally, I think Indian startups have come a long way in the last 5 to 6 years. Right? So I remember, having chats with early stage startup founders talking about deploying ML AI even before they had sort of started logging the data, right? Thinking of MLAI as the solution to all problems. Now I see founders are kind of realizing that it's not a magic wand, right? And there are many prerequisites from having true data centricity in the org, from founders to product tech leadership to PMs and techies who are responsible for data logging at the top of the funnel, to onboarding right senior people with good hands-on experience with modeling and analytics who can quickly build an inspired team, under them. Also, another big change that I see happening in the startups, which are kind of maturing, especially those reaching sort of unicorn status. So they're kind of shifting from this fragmented analytics functions reporting into different business heads to relatively more central data teams, more like a horizontal capability, which I think, if led properly, creates a far superior and unbiased answers, for the org. Also, a lot has changed because of good third-party solutions. Again, right? Data pipelines, warehousing. So historically, when data leaders and business had to kind of, when we had to kind of make this tough call between prioritizing something which is directly impacting growth versus tech bandwidth, for pipelining and warehousing. So all those places, good third-party solutions are kind of helping data kind of leapfrog, right? Data ecosystem leapfrog to the next level. So yeah, I mean, looking at how things have shaped in the last few years, I am very bullish, about what the future looks like for data function, not just in Indian startups, actually, literally everywhere. So we are on the right track, I believe.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of progress in terms of just do it yourself pipelines in few minutes. And we just saw how Hivo has helped. I worked with Hivo with my earlier companies and positions as well. And it's very important that what we are currently thinking about is a real-time analytics or trying to respond to the customer signals. Now, I believe that is very, very important for a company like Zetwork, which has transformed the traditional manufacturing, right? I would like to understand, Hemanshu, from you, how do you make projections with this data, and how has data analytics changed the manufacturing?
So, so the basic idea on which Zetwork was founded was to bring around transparency in the whole manufacturing supply chain. And to solve this, our products were designed in a way that they capture data at most touch points in the manufacturing process, which was never been thought of earlier, and which has not been done earlier as well. As a result of this, a lot of data was being captured now, and we were now able to identify the roadblocks in the whole manufacturing process faster than ever. Earlier, a communication between an OEM, which was the company who wanted things to be manufactured, and an SME, these two things used to work in silos, and the communication was very, very fragmented. But with data flowing in, the whole fragmented kind of supply chain became more connected. Like one of the examples of one of the results of all this is we were able to now able to preempt the delays from happening from across the board in the manufacturing process, and we were able to define the manufacturing process and break down the manufacturing process for different industry, like steel manufacturing industry, textile manufacturing industry, electronics manufacturing industry, right? And all this has led to a better on-time delivery experience for our customers, and led to more capacities to be utilized at our suppliers, and because they were stuck with no communication from us from the customer end, and and at the second manufacturing process was kind of halted. So all of this, to give in maybe a quantifiable impact, that how we have kind of impacted the whole manufacturing industry, the Zetwork managed factories or suppliers, right? They are able to deliver far better on-time delivery experiences to our customers as compared to the industry. To give you some numbers, the industry works around 10 to 20% of on-time delivery experience, whereas Zetwork managed factories are able to deliver more than 75% on-time delivery experience, which is solely based on the level of data that we are capturing, and like the efficiency in the communication that we are bringing in between an SME and a customer. And that's a big way in which data has transformed like the manufacturing industry and impacted our whole ecosystem of Zetwork, including customers as well as suppliers.
Absolutely. I think the efficiency improvement here has probably made the manufacturing much more agile in the true sense.
Definitely, yeah.
Right. So, okay. With that, I think a lot of our audience would be interested in understanding as to, with all these different transformations and maturing of the entire ecosystem, I would like to understand that for a company like PhonePe, how is the data analytics team structured? Who are the internal customers, and what do you suggest is a structure for the ideal data analytics team?
Yeah, that's a tricky question to answer, Pradeep, and I'll actually pick up from Naresh's point around how a lot of organizations are going towards a centralized analytics team versus a decentralized team where each analyst is working under a different business function. I think it's still very debatable. I don't think there's a perfect answer for every organization that's a centralized analytics team. I mean, no offense, Naresh, to your thoughts, but I remember 4.5 years back with my CEO and PhonePe, Samir Nigam, we both had a long conversation about centralized versus a decentralized. There are pros and cons to both. Today, we are a centralized analytics team in PhonePe. My team is a 40-member team supporting the entire organization. The 40 analysts in the team, each analyst we work in a structure called pod in PhonePe. So each pod is, so let's say there's a recharge pod. So recharge is one of the use cases on PhonePe. So it will have the engineers who are building the recharge product. You'll have the product manager, you'll have the business managers or the business development team, and you'll have the analyst, you'll have the design person. So this constitutes a pod. So it's basically, we have a culture of startup within a startup. That's how the analytics team is structured in PhonePe. But yeah, I think I've seen organizations, large organizations, where a decentralized analytics team could work as well. But I do agree with Naresh that a centralized analytics team slightly has more pros in the way you could manage the team in building the right infrastructure, especially, and scalability of leveraging data. So,
yeah, I think it moves. So in very early stage startup, you probably want to keep it fragmented. Then you sort of create a central team, and then again you go to the hybrid model. Because when you become even larger, then you have one core sort of center of excellence, which is kind of working on bigger problems. And then there are smaller teams which are supporting day to day.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good idea too. Yeah.
Right. So with this kind of maybe a fluid team structure or different stakeholders, right? It's more like turning tables. So how do you hire, retain, and scale such a team? Because what you're talking about is generic engineers first hired, and later on you come with a central team maybe, and then you want to democratize the data across the team. So how do you manage such a team, hiring and retaining?
Is this a question?
Yeah, this is the question for Naresh. You.
Yeah. Sure. Okay, cool. So see, to be honest, for the last 3 years, 3.5 years, we have come a very long way. We are close to 75 data professionals spread across core BI, DSML, and platform engineers working on problems varying from procurement pricing to dynamic margins while liquidating the cars, to assortment planning, inventory management, refurb optimization, recommendation engine, right? And all of this across all our geographies, right? From India to UAE to Australia, Thailand, and many newer countries coming soon. And one most fundamental thing while hiring and scaling the data team, which really worked for me, especially, was to clearly establish the mandate, right? Both with the team, with the new folks coming in, as well as the stakeholders and management. That data team would not just be a validator, right? So many orgs, data plays the role of be the eyes of the organization, as they call, right? That you can see everything. But at Cars24, we have data literally on the driver's seat, and the one change that kind of enabled us do that was creating tag teams across core BI and ML. So not very different from how Achal used it. So we have within the data team itself, we have ML team and the BI team kind of working together to solve a problem. The BI module leads, these are like sort of seasoned data leaders, right? Who would have their own team of 7 to 8 analysts kind of reporting into them. And they also control the work. They sort of are responsible for the work prioritization of DS, which otherwise would report into their own vertical. So DS reporting into lead DS, who is reporting into staff / principal DS, right? So at least their learning growth, technical sort of upskilling is handled through that vertical, but the work prioritization comes from BI module leads. And this is not very different from how product and tech operate. And we have kind of tried to take a leaf out of that book and create a win-win answer for everyone. Because if you see now the BI sort of BI leads, now they are no longer just validators because they now have the leverage of ML, which is integrated into your product backend algorithms, right? So ML is full stack. So big. So you are not just saying that, hey, conversion is dropping or margins are down. You are also responsible to fix it because ML prioritization sits with you. So it's a win-win answer for BI and also for DS because DS kind of is interacting with business through the BI layer, right? So they're shielded from the day-to-day chaos of business, which is real, right? And which is a lot in startup ecosystem. Also, one thing which we tried to get right was the clear demarcation between the roles of analytics and ML, which many organizations, people tend to cross leverage ML professionals for analytics and vice versa, which I think adds to a lot of frustration, right? So we have tried to keep it very clearly demarcated and separate. And last but not the least, very strong proponent of full stack DSML professionals who can both build the models and also deploy them in production versus depending on tech or DevOps bandwidth, right? It's not easy to find such people. So what we have created is we have created sort of sub modules where you have an ML engineer kind of working very closely with a DS who is more maths, stats inclined. And that kind of ensures that our all the projects that we are working on, see the light of the day, keeps everyone happy, right? Wouldn't say it has been easy, but we are trying hard to kind of, create that ideal ecosystem.
Yeah, that's very difficult to keep everybody happy. That's why the stakeholders are very tricky business. So I think again, in case of startups, I see two very interesting startups and panelists with us, Kiran and Naveen. So I would be posing the same question to you first, Naveen. I'm really more of a road trip kind of enthusiast. So let me ask you this. You would be having a lot of vendors and everybody might be having their own loyalty systems at times and different type of data, right? And when you start working with all these people, they'll not be giving you the data first up. So you would always be having data in multiple different places. How important is to have a single source of truth for data? And when is the right time for a company or a startup to start thinking about it and building it?
Yeah, sure. So let me just try to add some perspective to it first. So according to Forbes, right, around 53% of companies use data or big data to arrive at their goals and reasons. I think this highlights the importance of whenever you're using data, that should be coming from the single source of truth. And to ensure like that every stakeholder is referring to the same metrics or KPI, single source of truth becomes very, very important. And especially as you mentioned, when the firm's data is coming through various sources or various microservices or different ports, it becomes very important that you ensure there is single source of truth so that all the decisions are taking on the right set of data. And when it becomes important, I'm just keeping it crisp in the interest of time. So when should we do it? There is no right or wrong answer, but I would say whenever you are hearing few questions in the meeting, right? For example, people are asking, where is the data coming from? How old is the data point, right? Or is the data set complete and accurate? Which version of data we are looking at? that simply tells you that you don't have a single source of data and people are not very confident of the data you are talking about. So this ensures that these questions, whenever they are coming, you have to make sure that you are moving towards a single source of data. And how we ensure at our firm that we are maintaining a single source of truth. So all of our core system, whether it's a third party system or our internal system, whenever there is a change of data, CDC, change data detection, they basically push it to a centralized queue system from where we consume. And depending on whether we want to have a real-time data warehouse or a batch-based warehouse, depending on the use case, real-time we use to show the real-time insights to our hotelier partners. And at the same time, we use batch-based for our data scientists and the BI team. So we ensure that the data is coming in the single queue. From there, depending on the severity of the data availability, we push it on the real-time basis to a different system and on the batch basis there. So it becomes important if you are data is getting the question in different meetings. You don't know when the data was updated, from where the data is coming, is it updated or not. That's the right time to decide. Like you should move towards that.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good pointer that if in a meeting there are two people raising their hand talking about the same data, that's the right time you ask that, are you referring to the same one? Now, let me go back to Kiran and understand for e-commerce also, you'll be working with a lot of integrations and third-party enabler systems as well. So even in your case, the single source of truth is a question that comes down the line.
Yeah, the single source of truth, I think the question should come from day one, to be honest, because see, if you have two different definition of same metric or same data being copied or same definition is being copied across, I think there's definitely bound to errors will creep in somewhere, right? So the question of building single source of truth should be from day one. When it comes to Misho, we have taken a little different route when it comes to single source of truth. We follow something similar to what data mesh is, because where we have this distributed data domain ownership, where let's say if order processing system is generating some data, we expect the generator of the data or the source of the data to maintain the quality of data as well, in terms of metric definitions, in terms of how you define whatever you want to analyze and all that, right? So the whole idea of having single source of truth, in our opinion, need not be a single data lake or data warehouse where you keep everything. Rather, let the source own the definitions, let them own the schemas, let them own the governance around the data also, where who gets access to the data. Let's say if it has PI information, masking it at the source itself and making sure that only few people get access with right access privileges and all that, right? So we have taken the distributed data domain ownership model, which is similar to what microservices for the regular software architecture, right? So, but it poses another challenge for us is, well, how do you basically deal with this cross-domain answers, right? Where you have some data sitting in your reseller portal, or you have some data sitting in your order databases, whatever it is. How do you answer that, right? That's where we built an event stream, like Naveen mentioned, using CDC, where we write wherever we have these use cases, we write it through CDC to a common event stream and then read it back, so that everyone gets one source of truth, irrespective of from where they are reading and how they are using it, be it data science, analytics, or dashboarding use cases, right? So, so we, so in our case, it's completely a distributed model when it comes to still solving that single source of truth problem.
Yeah, I think distributed and domain driven makes it much more difficult because you need to keep the data consistent, and a lot of data sync needs to happen that particular way.
That's where we leverage CDC, and we have this centralized event stream, right? So where our idea is like basically have a lot of data products come out of those pod level data where the ownership lies, and you have your own analytics and everyone assigned to you, and they build the models. Whenever you need a cross-pod collaboration, that is where it goes to a centralized data lake through CDC, and then you process same definitions here. So we don't change the definition. So idea of single source of truth is not to tweak the definitions in your centralized processing systems. Rather, own them at the source and define them properly, collect the right level of information.
Right. So I think the problem is offloaded to more of engineering kind of problem rather than
basically, yeah, we believe in basically source owning data quality, doing data quality and data governance at the source. And then the central data platform team or the data big data stack will help enable the self-service capabilities to do the event streaming and combining these streams without altering the definitions.
I think that sounds itself a good, complex challenge. Now I'm more interested in understanding if what would be the biggest challenge that you faced at Misho, and how did you solve it?
Yeah, biggest challenge for Misho is the volume growth of the data. If you look at last 6 months or 8 months in the short term, right? And then when I look, I think a month back, I looked at the data. It says that our data volume has gone up by 8x or 9x, right? Whatever models we built 6 months back, if they were working on a small set of data, now suddenly they have to crunch 10x or 8x more data. And with that kind of growth, it poses two challenges. One is, how do you make your systems available with 4 nines of reliability and availability? How do you make sure that what we track a metric called data downtime? How do you optimize the data downtime so that there's almost get it to zero, so that anyone who is consuming the data from the platform was able to consume even at this scale, right? So that is one big challenge where we keep uh, evolving our tech stack. We keep seeing the components which are hitting their limits, and maybe doing some custom engineering around them to make them work at billion events per day kind of scale, or we keep them up and doing it without stopping the system, right? And another major thing, being an e-commerce company, we do run a lot of sales every month. So how do you basically handle sales? Because during sales, normally what we see is like our daily traffic doubles or triples momentarily for that particular sale period, right? Managing our systems for that kind of scale and varied loads is something, and building it in a self-healing manner, right? Where auto scaling in an optimal way, and making sure that you don't basically one bad event doesn't take down your system, whatever, right? And making this petabyte scale data available to all your use cases, especially ad hoc use cases where there's a lot of people try to query, do a select star and petabyte table, and making either rejecting it or making it work is something which is a big challenge. Another bigger challenge is hiring, because Misho kind of e-commerce company, we are, our use cases keep evolving every day, and we keep the more and more facilities we add on the platform. Like let's say we recently added real-time analytics and all, right? So once you have the real time, then everyone wants real time. So keeping up with the pace of development of the platform, as well as developing models for real time and all, and hiring talent is another bigger challenge in the market as of now, because there are a lot of big data talent, but when it comes to working at petabyte scale, very few cross the bar there, right? So not compromising the bar and hiring the right talent is another big challenge we see here.
Right. I think good to mention you have added on the data scale and the team scale. So I'll ask Achal, who has been part of PhonePe from start. How do you see the growth in data, the entire journey, and its own impact on the team growth?
Yeah, I'll keep the answer short. Today, I think, like I'll add to what Kiran is mentioning, all of us are capturing every data point on our websites and apps. So basically, simple rule of thumb for people listening in is every click that you do on every website and app is captured. So yeah, the data that we capture is humongous. But I think with the leveraging the right technology, you don't have to resort to a people-driven solution. With the right technology, the right stack, with an engineering mindset or processing it in the right way, I think it can be done with the help of technology. So today, I think a lot of Indian startups, like Naresh was mentioning too, are going towards working with lean teams and leveraging technology better. That's the same philosophy I follow in PhonePe as well. Try to keep the team as lean as possible. The answer to every question around whether we need more people because the data is so much more humongous now and we need so much more time to process and analyze so much more is can we solve this with technologies? The first thing we ask ourselves, and then if not, the next question is, can more people actually solve this problem? So that is where we are at.
Okay, I'll pose the same question to you, Naveen. How is the growth maybe has transformed the team, if not resulted in the team size being increased?
Yeah, I think as other panelists have clearly highlighted, right? If you build the right technology, you don't need a very big team. But to give you perspective, like we started with a very small team of 2-3 member. Again, we started building the data platform team around 2.5 years back, where we started with data engineering, and then slowly we added the team of data analytics and the data scientists. So currently we are having a team of around 15 people, which handles like millions of events, which get generated every minute from our hotelier partners. To put it in context, our hotelier partners update their inventory rates multiple times through different technologies they use. So multiple channel manager comes in the picture when you're working in the hotel industry. So to handle that, we are able to manage with this team for quite some time now, and we are not scaling. And I think someone already correctly highlighted, as if you're building the right technology at the right time, then probably you don't need to scale the team accordingly. But yes, initially putting a right team into practice is very important, and choosing the right technology.
Yeah, I think that's an important take out from it. You have to be very proactive if you are going to be part of the data team. So my next question will be to you, Naresh. Can you just walk us through CAST 24 0 to 1 and 1 to 10 journey, and how the data analytics, data engineering, data science team have supported the growth?
Yeah, sure. And I'll try to keep it crisp in the best interest of time. But so we have been around for 6 years now, right? Operating across 6 different countries. I think we are already on our 10 to X journey. 0 to 1 was first 3 to 4 years when we were mostly focused on supply side of ecosystem, C2B focused, and only in India. And that was the time when we were. One thing that we got right was that we had already started collecting all the data, which kind of eventually ended up becoming a moat for us when we went on to build all kind of pricing engines and dealer recommendation engine, right? But first three years or so, it was mostly about collecting everything that was being generated through all the inspections, auctions, transactions happening on a platform, and kind of doing the first two stages of maturity, right? So tracking everything and kind of trying to deep dive into why there was any change on the KPI. The 1 to 10 journey kicked in late 2019 when we started moving towards having our own inventory and selling it to the end buyers, right? And the idea was to kind of influence the ecosystem end to end, because now you're not just solving it for seller, but you're also solving it for the buyer. And for you to kind of get into inventory, having a very robust pricing engine is a prerequisite, which kind of came from the 0 to 1 journey, right? Because we had been collecting all the data. And this is also when the ML applications actually started kicking in, automating and standardizing, all our key decisions, right? From which car to buy, at what price point, what should be the cost of refurbishment for any car, and then how to best control the liquidation and margins while selling those cars. Now, as we kind of move to 10 to end journey, the answers are becoming even more mature, where we are creating these horizontally, scalable backend ML platforms, which can work across countries for the kind of decisions we had been making in India earlier. And also we are becoming smarter with condition assessment through deep learning layer. We have recommendation engines kicking in for catalog personalization across all countries, right? So yeah, I'm very fulfilling journey for me personally, and I'm sure for the rest of the team.
Great to hear that. My next question is to you, Naveen. I think we would all want to understand the secret sauce behind the pricing recommendation that McMetric does for hoteliers. Essentially, it is around helping them as well, right? So
Yeah.
how do you leverage the data for that?
Yeah, sure. So this was, I think, our first biggest data science product, right? Where we realized that many of our hotelier partner, they keep a static price, despite if the demand is significantly up or low for certain check-in dates in future, right? So, and which is again, should be very, very dynamic. If you have a low demand, you should put your prices down just to capture more customer. And if your demand is high, you should probably increase the price while factoring in the other factors, right? So when we reached out to our partners, we realized there were two key reasons, like either they didn't have the capability or bandwidth to set the right pricing. So again, we as a team decided like we will build algorithm which could be scaled for all of our hotelier partners, and we leverage different data points which we were building over the time with our data warehouse. So we leverage basically the demand trends for their particular hotel and what's happening in their locality, specifically with their competition. What's the occupancy, which is how many rooms they have sold out of all the available rooms they have for that particular day. So what's the occupancy running, how their competitions are pricing, how their occupancy is evolving, and again, one of the most important part, events in locality, right? And considering all these factors, we recommend them a right price for a particular check-in. And again, it helps both our hotelier partner as well as us as a platform, because in the low demand scenario, we are recommending them the right pricing they should keep to attract more consumer. And whenever the demand is high, our hotelier partners are able to make more money because they are able to leverage the high demand for certain check-ins. So it's a win-win for both of us. And again, data has played a very big role to scale smaller partner which didn't have the capability to build this kind of things at their end.
Right. Yeah, great to have that answer, Naveen. Now, I would just ask all the audiences if you have any question, you can post. I'll be opening now the panel to everybody. In the panel, one question that if there are data analyst professionals who are listening to this particular this particular session, who have begun their journey in this space recently, what are some of the tips that you would want to share?
Yeah. Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah. This is a question for all of you. Naresh, go ahead.
Let me go first. I have 3-4 key pointers here. See, especially for the young folks who are getting into data sciences and analytics now. First and foremost, underlying math is the key. That's the only permanent. The tech implementation, the way you are kind of taking these models live, that's all transient, right? And that keeps evolving because tech is evolving very fast. But you'll be surprised to know that the underlying math never changes. All these deep learning models, everything that's coming into picture right now at a neuron level, you are still solving a very basic logic function. So you need to know the underlying math. And so many people I interview all the time. Somehow everyone is missing, wood for the trees. Second point, ML for business, especially in the startup context. If you are looking for analytics, data science career in startups, go for, and you should definitely know the problem you are trying to solve and the business KPI you are trying to move. Having that context will clearly change how your solution will look like, right? Versus having a data centric, data first approach, you should have a business first or a problem first approach. Third, very important point around the iterative approach to solution deployment. A lot of companies end up making this mistake. I made this mistake many times in past where we try to perfect our solution and then take it live, right? It's just a delayed answer. And in the startup context, everything changes by then, right? So you can't really wait that long. Idea is to, Pareto principle is real, right? And it holds true for almost all real life scenario. 80% of the problem can be solved with 20% of the effort. Get that V1 model out, get grip on the infra, get feedback loop kicking in, and then try to iterate over it. It works every single time. Last, not the least, don't confine yourself to just one domain. Try not to get slotted under pressure. A lot of people are sticking to analytics domain just because of peer pressure. You could be far better in business side of things, product, tech, design. Don't just stick to it for wrong reasons. Do it for the right reasons. And if you do it, then of course perseverance is the key. It's really uncanny, how the ideal solution almost always is like just after the darkest phase, just around the corner. So we should not give up. Like once we have decided that we want to be in analytics, then perseverance is the key.
My two cents to aspiring analysts and data scientists is, I'll say definitely agree with Naresh. Be good with numbers. That's the most basic thing. You have to be good with numbers. Second, I would say is, I think curiosity. Be very curious, ask a lot of questions. It really helps all the times, especially in your interviews. Ask more questions than the answers you give out. It has helped me each and every time. I think it'll help you out as well. And finally, I think it's just the attitude to learn. A lot of people think data science and analytics, especially data science, people think is very complex. It isn't. It's no rocket science. All of us in this call have learned on the job as well. You will definitely do it. So just have the right attitude to learn. As long as you're accepting of the fact that there is scope for you to learn and improve, you will definitely do really well. I wish each and everyone the best as well.
Great to have those answers. I have a couple of questions from our audience also. I would just ask any of you who would want to take this up. One is that at the theme level, what is the basic difference between B2B and B2C product analytics? Does it make sense to build from scratch for B2C and use libraries for B2B, or how does it make a difference for the data engineering function?
One difference, yeah, we have seen with Misho being B2B to B2C in recent past, is like say the volume of data suddenly goes up once you become B2C, right? So the sheer volume of data and how you handle it will become a different challenge on its own, and some of the tech decisions you would have made based on current data volumes may not hold good. So that's where I think B2B data volumes are less, but the variety of data might be more. The kind of solutions you deploy, kind of tech stack you deploy end to end might be totally different compared to B2C. B2C, more popular your app becomes or a website becomes, some of the open source stack or even the commercial ones start hitting their limits, and you might have to do a lot of engineering on your own to make things work after a particular inflection point. I think that's the only difference. Other than that, I don't see a difference in terms of how do you build end-to-end solutions or use cases.
Adding to what Kiran mentioned, like I'll just try and add my 2 cents to that. Like B2B definitely, as Kiran mentioned, has a lot less data as compared to B2C, right? And this makes experimentation a little more harder in the B2B environment as compared to in a B2C environment. And in addition to that, right? Yeah, like the B2C comes very, very natural from an analyst point of view, right? Like, yeah, when you're solving problems, you see any solution. Let's say while working for Misho or like while I was working for Flipkart, I could relate my experiences while I was a customer, which might not be like possible. Let's say when I'm a product analyst, let's say the company like Zetwork or a Khata book or a bill book or salary box, yes, things like that. So that's a basic difference. Like there needs to be a lot more business understanding when you're a product analyst at a B2B organization as compared to a B2C organization.
Absolutely. I think for B2B, there is a lot of stress on visualizations, making the data available, because they'll probably have their own questions and will try to arrive at answers. But in case of customers, it is more that customer is not probably looking for an answer to any question. They are just looking for you to take action and take right actions on base of data, right? So that's the base. At the base level, that's how you need to think about your analytics function for B2B versus B2C.
Hey, Pradeep, there is one question addressed to me, and I have a hard stop. So can I answer that first?
Sure. Yes.
It talks about how much of data shift did you see in COVID times, and did this result in retraining data science models? The answer is a lot of shift. And to be honest, we keep retraining our models every quarter, 2 months, 3 months, and we have a model monitoring framework, regardless of major changes. But when it came to COVID, obviously everything changed, right? So fundamentally, the demand for pre-owned cars shot up. Traffic grew by 4x right after the lockdown was lifted. And more interestingly, even the prices of pre-owned cars went up by 4 to 5%. So all of this we obviously captured through our own clickstream, our own data, and kind of we definitely had to retrain models. And rather than So it's not a reactive measure. It's more of a, if you have a model monitoring framework in place, you would anyway do it, right? So whenever your model's performance kind of starts deteriorating, it will trigger the retraining requirement. So we have that in place, and yeah, we had to retrain the models.
Good to hear your answer, Naresh. Thanks for being proactive. I have one more question from a data scientist. He's working in Thailand in a startup, Nivedan. He's asking that he has come across a particular scenario wherein there was no correlation between marketing efforts and the end outcome, right? Wherein the business should have taken some kind of more of a feedback. I think that that's a problem all of us might have seen at one point or the other. But how do you approach such a situation being in the data science team?
Yeah. See, honestly speaking, if we are not, if our answers are not aligned with first principles, I would actually question my own approach first, because those are first principles for a reason. See, one thing could be that the end outcome itself, right, which had been defined, is wrong, right? So when you have, say, digital marketing going on, is it the sessions that you're trying to increase, or is it the views, or is it the final transaction? And it could happen that business is kind of looking at transactions and trying to establish correlation between transactions and marketing effort, whereas the efforts actually only move top of the funnel, right? So those are kind of things that you need to ask yourself and to the business stakeholders. But I would definitely, like, our job is not just reporting what the model is suggesting. It has to align with first principles. If it is not aligning with it, something is broken somewhere. Some assumption is wrong.
Okay, thanks for that answer, Naresh. Anybody else also want to add to it?
Yeah, I just want to add to the marketing one. Sorry, Hemanshu. I'll just add to the marketing question. I think marketing, there are two parts to it. If it is digital marketing, it should be very clearly measurable. You can run very controlled experiments, with a target group and a control group, and clearly establish the goodness or the impact that you're getting from that marketing effort. I think it's definitely much more challenging, and what Naresh was talking about, and rely on first principles and question the approach itself. If it is brand marketing, especially if it is TV ads, or let's say ATL, like hoardings, outdoor hoardings and things like that, it's very tough to establish the causality and the impact due to those marketing efforts. So there I would definitely say you would have to think about your approach and think about the first principles. So,
yeah, thanks for your answer, Achal. Himanshu, you wanted to add, or we move on to the next question?
Yeah, covered by Achal and Naresh already again.
All right. Okay. I think there's one more question, more from a learning perspective. There are lots of courses online, and how do you see which particular course should be taken up next, right? How do we maybe identify the courses that we need to have our own team get trained on or take up? One of you would want to take that particular question?
The course seriously depends on the person who wants to take the course. Like, they need to identify what are the places they want to grow at, and like what are their shortfalls and what are their gaps in terms of their day-to-day job, or maybe the job that they want to be in. So yeah, it would be unfair to pinpoint a particular course or particular thing, but yeah, it's a based on the personal experience. Let's say if I'm not good at SQL, I would take a course at SQL. If I'm not good at Python, I will take a course for that, or maybe a statistics approach. Like, there are courses available for everything at multiple platforms across internet, right? Like, yeah, and it's based on their own gaps and the places they want to excel at.
Yeah, I believe it's with so many good frameworks coming up. For example, if you find that there is adapter built in Evo, you'll probably not want to take up that particular course, because that's a solved problem for everybody. You should probably be looking for much more specific kind of learning. Yeah, I think we have one last question. If we have time, Parag and Priyanka, do you want to take more questions?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so this question is from Ayesha. She's a researcher and has been in academia. She wants to change from being a data analyst in academia to more of a commercial corporate kind of setup and analyze the commercial data? What should be her focus on to achieve this particular change? Let me just ask the question. Yeah.
I'll take this up. Yeah. Yeah, I would say you don't have to worry too much about it, Aisha. The skill sets that you have are very applicable to whatever the kind of data is, whether it's academic data or commercial data. The volumes might be much higher for commercial data. So if you can understand how to deal with big data, how to work with large volumes of data, that would really be helpful. My second suggestion would be whichever firm or organization you're interviewing with, do your research on the firm. Read about them, use their product. That will really help you understand what kind of data they capture, what kind of metrics they measure. Like a simple thing is if you're interviewing for a company which operates a website, just Google web analytics. You'll just understand all the metrics they measure, from click-through rate to bounce rate to conversion. And I think these would be simple suggestions to work on. But I would say you're mostly there. The skill sets are applicable. You don't have to worry too much about it.
+1 to that. Yeah, I think we have one more question, which is around statistics and how statistics is can it be tagged to or linked to being a data analyst or a data scientist? For whom is it more important? And do you can you stay away from learning more advanced statistics unless you want to become a data scientist?
That I can take. So I think it's important for both, to be honest, because maybe the application of statistics, the level of statistics you apply might be different for data analysis versus data science algorithms. But at the end of the day, they're all based on some level of statistics, right? So having the basic understanding of statistics is very important for anyone who wants to work in analytics. On top of it, having understanding of underlying databases, which is another important aspect, which I feel a lot of new age analytics folks are missing, because understanding how underlying databases work and how the data gets structured gives an edge in terms of optimizing all your models and getting best out of it. So these are two aspects which are basic for everyone.
Right. Yep. I think we have answered almost all the questions. Priyanka or Parag, you would want to take over?
Yeah, I just want to say, thank you so much to all the panelists. This was a very, very insightful discussion, and I'm sure the audience learned so much. I really thank all of you for your time.
Thank you, everybody. It was a really nice session.
Thanks, guys. Yes.
Thanks, Pradeep, for moderating. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks.